Welcome to Bible in a Year with Scott Purcell. I'm so glad you're joining me. This is a daily reading of portions of the Bible, following a plan that will include the entire Bible in a year. And now, let's open the book and begin our readings. This is the reading for day 39. If your reading is aligned with the calendar year, this is for February 8. The Old Testament reading is from Exodus, chapters 1, 2, and 3. Exodus 1. And these are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt. With Jacob they each came with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah; Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin; Dan and Naphtali; Gad and Asher. And all those who descended from Jacob were 70 individuals, and Joseph was in Egypt. And Joseph died, and all of his brothers and all of that generation. And the Israelites were fruitful and multiplied, and were many, and were very, very numerous, and the land was filled with them. And a new king rose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, "Look, the people of the Israelites are greater and more numerous than us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, lest they become many, and when war happens, they also will join our enemies and will fight against us and go up from the land." And they appointed commanders of forced labor over them in order to oppress them with their forced labor. And they built storage cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramesses. And as he oppressed them, so they became many, and so they spread out, and the Egyptians were afraid because of the presence of the Israelites. And the Egyptians ruthlessly compelled the Israelites to work. And they made their lives bitter with hard work, with mortar, and with bricks, and with all sorts of work in the field, with all their work in which they ruthlessly enslaved them. And the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the second was Puah, and he said, "When you help the Hebrews give birth, you will look upon the pairs of testicles. If he is a son, you will put him to death, and if she is a daughter, she will live." But the midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king of Egypt had said to them. They let the boys live. And the king of Egypt summoned the midwives, and he said to them, "Why have you done this thing and let the boys live?" And the midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, because they are vigorous. Before the midwife comes to them, they have given birth." And God did the midwives good, and the Israelite people became many and were very numerous. And so, because the midwives feared God, he gave them families. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born you will throw into the Nile, and every daughter you will let live." Exodus chapter 2. And a man from the family of Levi went, and he took a descendant of Levi. And the woman conceived, and she gave birth to a son, and she saw him, that he was a fine baby, and she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a papyrus basket for him, and she coated it with tar and with pitch, and she placed the boy in it, and she placed it among the reeds on the bank of the Nile. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh went down to wash at the Nile, while her maidservants were walking alongside the Nile, and she saw the basket in the midst of the reeds, and she sent her a slave woman for it, and took it, and opened it, and saw him, the boy, and it was a lad weeping. And she had compassion for him, and said, "This must be from the boys of the Hebrews." And his sister said to the daughter of Pharaoh, "Shall I go and call for you a woman from the Hebrews who is nursing, so that she will nurse the boy for you?" And the daughter of Pharaoh said to her, "Go." And the girl went, and she called the mother of the boy. And the daughter of Pharaoh said, "Take this boy and nurse him for me, and I myself will give you wages." And the woman took the boy, and she nursed him. And the boy grew, and she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, "Because I drew him out from the water." And then, in those days when Moses had grown up, he went out to his brothers, and he saw their forced labor. And he saw an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man, one of his brothers. And he turned here and there, and he saw no one, and he struck the Egyptian, and he hid him in the sand. And he went out on the second day, and there were 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he said to the guilty one, "Why do you strike your neighbor?" And he said, "Who appointed you as a commander and a judge over us? Are you intending to kill me like you killed the Egyptian?" And Moses was afraid and said, "Surely the matter has become known." And Pharaoh heard this matter, and he sought to kill Moses. And Moses fled from Pharaoh, and he lived in the land of Midian, and he lived at a certain well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. And they came to Reuel their father, and he said, "Why have you come so quickly today?" And they said, "An Egyptian man delivered us from the hand of the shepherds, and he even drew water for us and watered the flock." And he said to his daughters, "Where is he? Why then have you left the man? Call him so that he can eat some food." And Moses agreed to stay with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses. And she bore a son, and he called his name Gershom, because he said, "I am an alien in a foreign land." And then, during those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the Israelites groaned because of the work, and they cried out, and their cry for help because of the work went up to God. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God saw the Israelites, and God took notice. Exodus 3. And Moses was a shepherd with the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the west of the desert, and he came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. And the angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and there was the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not being consumed. And Moses said, "Let me turn aside and see this great sight. Why does the bush not burn up?" And Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see, and God called to him from the midst of the bush. And he said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." And he said, "You must not come near to here. Take off your sandals from on your feet, because the place on which you are standing, it is holy ground." And he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face because he was afraid of looking at God. And Yahweh said, "Surely I have seen the misery of my people who are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry of distress because of their oppressors, for I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from this land to a good and wide land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now look, the cry of distress of the Israelites has come to me, and also I see the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. And now come, and I will send you to Pharaoh, and you must bring my people, the Israelites, out from Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the Israelites out from Egypt?" And he said, "Because I am with you, and this will be a sign for you that I myself have sent you. When you bring the people out from Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain." But Moses said to God, "Look, if I go to the Israelites and I say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' and they say to me, 'What is his name?' then what shall I say to them?" And God said to Moses, "I am that I am." And he said, "So you must say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" And God said again to Moses, "So you must say to the Israelites, 'Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance from generation to generation. Go and gather the elders of Israel, and say to them, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, appeared to me, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I have carefully attended to you and what has been done to you in Egypt. And I said, I will bring you up from the misery of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will listen to your voice, and you will go, you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt, and you will say to him, Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now let us please go on a journey of 3 days into the desert, and let us sacrifice to Yahweh our God. But I myself know that the king of Egypt will not allow you to go unless compelled by a strong hand. And I will stretch out my hand, and I will strike Egypt with all of my wonders that I will do in its midst. And afterward he will release you. And I will give this people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. And then, when you go, you will not go empty-handed. And a woman will ask from her neighbor, and from the women dwelling as an alien in her house, for objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And you will put them on your sons and on your daughters, and you will plunder Egypt. The New Testament reading is from Matthew 26, verses 1 through 30. Matthew 26:1. And it happened that when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, You know that after 2 days the Passover takes place, and the Son of Man will be handed over in order to be crucified. Then the chief priest and the elders of the people assembled in the place of the high priest, who was named Caiaphas, and plotted in order that they could arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they were saying, Not during the feast, so that there will not be an uproar among the people. Now, while Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him holding an alabaster flask of very expensive perfumed oil, and poured it out on his head while he was reclining at table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor. But Jesus, knowing this, said to them, Why do you cause trouble for the woman? For she has done a good deed for me. For the poor you always have with you, but you do not always have me. For when this woman poured this ointment on my body, she did it in order to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told in memory of her. Then one of the 12, the one named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, What are you willing to give me if I in turn deliver him to you? So they set out for him 30 silver coins. And from that time on, he began seeking a favorable opportunity in order that he could betray him. Now, on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came up to Jesus, saying, Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, The teacher says, My time is near. I am celebrating the Passover with you with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus directed them, and they prepared the Passover. And when it was evening, he was reclining at table with the 12 disciples. And while they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you, that one of you will betray me." And greatly distressed, each one began saying to him, "Surely I am not he, am I, Lord?" And he answered and said, "The one who dips his hand in the bowl with me, this one will betray me. The Son of Man is going just as it is written about him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for him if that man had not been born." And Judas, the one who was betraying him, answered and said, "Surely I'm not he, am I, Rabbi?" He said to him, "You have said it." Now, while they were eating, Jesus took bread, and after giving thanks, he broke it, and giving it to the disciples, he said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And after taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. But I tell you, from now on, I will never drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in the kingdom of my Father." And after they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. The wisdom literature reading is from Psalm 19, verses 1 through 6. For the music director, a psalm of David. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims the work of his hands. Every day they pour forth speech, and every night they tell knowledge. There is no speech, and there are no words. Their sound is inaudible. Yet in all the world their line goes out, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has pitched a tent for the sun, and it is like a bridegroom who comes out of his bridal chamber. It is glad like a strong man to run its course. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit to the other end of them, and nothing is hidden from its heat. This concludes the reading for Day 39. Thank you for listening. These daily readings are made possible by your generous support of the Global Outreach Ministry of Scott Purcell. To partner with us and enable this work and others like it, please visit huttobible.com/give and select Go Pastor Support from the fund list. You can also sign up for ministry updates at scott-purcell.epistle.org/subscribe. Both of those links can be found in the podcast description. Thank you for helping us share God's Word.